Hey guys, it's Robin, RsIslandCrafts. Welcome to my craft room. This video is my Whip It Wednesday video where I show you what projects I've worked on in the craft room, whether I just put a couple stitches into a knit project or a crochet project, or it's been my main focus for the week. Now you haven't seen this one in a while because last week I forgot to show it to you. This is hubby's Crochet Afghan that I'm working on for him. Where are my markers? So this is where I would have been if I'd have shown it to you last week. I had gotten this much done. Now this week I'm starting on a big chunk of red that I thought I just plopped down at this part of it. So I've gotten to this far. Each one of these little humps that you see, these little ridges and rows, this is 2 times. I'm going to go one way that way, one way that way. So each of these are 2. So this week I've done 2, 4. I've done about 5 rows, 4 rows. So it's not too much. But last week I did get a good chunk done, and I want to make sure I showed it to you. This is what it looks like on the back. And I'm going to have to stop soon to go ahead and weave in all these ends so I don't get stuck with them all the way at the end, because that's never fun. Now, I've spoken to you before about these crochet hooks to see, we were discussing whether or not that it would ease the pain in my neck and my shoulder. Now, I've noticed that when I'm working on an Afghan with this larger hook, on an Afghan you're a little bit more relaxed and you don't have to really hold it tight as if you were knitting a stuffed animal or a hat, or I'm sorry, if you're crocheting a stuffed animal or a hat or socks or scarf or whatever. Some of them tend to be a smaller hook. You tend to hold it a little tighter just to be able to hold on to it, and it makes and when your stitches are a little bit smaller, they tend to be tighter. It's just a process of crocheting. If you guys crochet, you know what I'm talking about. And for those that don't, these hooks, this is a rather large one. This is an L. They start down at the beginning of the alphabet, and the higher you go up, like L, M, N, O, P, they become bigger and bigger hooks, so you can work with multiple strands. Some people use like a P, Q, and R, and they use 5 or 6 strands held together. But I thought this one gave me the nice look. I wanted a certain fabric. I wanted it to be flexible and a little bit drapey. Not quite like you would wear if it was a silk shirt or something, but I didn't want it to be tight and lay heavy on Rob's laps. So that's why I just kept testing them out until I found the one I like, and I like the L. So does it help my shoulder pain and my neck pain? Yes and no. It does do pretty good, and like I said, when I'm working on the Afghan, it's not too bad, but I'm being very careful not to work on any crochet project for more than a couple hours a day, so that I'm not irritating those muscles and the nerves that are, connected all through the neck and the shoulder, because as you're working, it just kind of goes all the way up. If you take your hand like this, and if you go slow, for me, I can feel just this movement in my shoulder, and that's basically the movement that you're doing when you crochet. And as you see, I don't really hold my hooks very tight anyways. I do what they call a knife hold. Other people they do like a pencil hold and they crochet like this. Or I really don't know how else they do it, but it's supposed to be like a pencil. But I've always held mine like a knife. I think if you have maybe a little bit of arthritis or problems with your hand or wrist or elbow or shoulder, maybe buy the one hook you use all the time. Just play with it a little bit on a swatch, maybe make a dishcloth just to see how it does, and then if it's helpful, you can go ahead and buy the whole set. I think as long as I don't crochet for hours and hours and days and days and days, that it's going to be okay. I'm not going to be getting back into making a lot of crocheted things, although there are a couple shawls I would love to crochet. They go much faster than knitting. It's a shame that my body is not cooperating. So there's Rob's blanket. This is just made after a pattern by Lion Brand. It's meant to be a baby Afghan it has like a hood on it, so after you give the baby a bath and you want to wrap them up in a blanket, you can cover their head and everything like that. He's just getting it in plain old Red Heart Super Saver because this stuff lasts forever and it goes through the washer and dryer really nice. And we tend to wash and dry our blankets a lot because 3 cats and a dog and a dusty house. Because my road is still a dirt road and all dug up. That's all I want to say on that matter. So since we started with the yarn products, I'm just going to keep going. This is a little Felix Dragon. You've seen his head. You've seen his ears. Sometimes I swear when you're crocheting these little stuffies that it takes just as long to make all the little tiny parts as it does to make the big parts. And you've seen his horns. So I've been working on his spikes. So I've got the one small spike and the 3 large ones. At this point, I'm supposed to start putting things on his head. You know, and then that's because spikes are going to go down it like that, and he's got some ears. I think they're going to go this way. So hopefully next week we'll see at least his head put together, and I should be able to have started on his body. I am using Knitcraft by Hobbycraft. It's a cotton blend. It's a DK yarn. This is 50 cotton and 50 acrylic. It's a thinner yarn. I enjoy working with it. It doesn't, I can feel that it's cotton, but at the same time, it doesn't have that drag, and it doesn't seem to suck the moisture out of your hands when you're working on it. Now for this one, I'm using one of those special hooks still. This one's a G, so as you can see, it is a much smaller hook. And when I'm crocheting some of the things, it's not too bad. But a lot of times you really do need to hold on to your hook. Instead of just kind of crocheting like this for the Afghan, I do have to kind of have some control of it to be crocheting round and round and round in circles like this, or in a spiral, I should say. So you're getting in that hook, and you're kind of, I think sometimes it makes me lift my shoulder up towards my ear. So I have to be really careful on how I'm holding my body while I'm crocheting. I did not knit on the log cabin mitts, but I finally got, I scared myself for a second. I finally got all the ends woven in. These are the ones that I'm going to be using when I put the other pieces on. I thought I still had more ends. So all my ends are woven in the back. Every one of these little log cabin sections had 2 ends to weave in. One from the beginning and one from the end. So there's 9 on each, so I had to weave in 36 ends. That was an adventure. So now I can go ahead and move on to the next step now that all the ends are woven in. That was the part that I was kind of like dragging on a little bit there. And speaking of dragging on, last week I told you guys on Talk to Me Tuesday that my Mojo was gone. But a lot of you guys called me out on it. Said, Robin, you got a lot done for someone who didn't have any Mojo this week. But I answered a few of your guys' comments down below when anyone asked. But for me, when I'm not feeling creative and I really don't feel like working on any of the projects I have, I kind of force myself to. I pick something that I can work on, even if it's just maybe I'm cutting up my scraps that are piled up in the craft room, doing a little cleaning, or I work on certain projects. When you have projects that have deadlines, you really can't afford to not work on them. Don't you guys have days when you have to go to work, but you really don't feel like working, but you still have to go in and you have to do your job and work on those projects? I kind of hold it the same way here because this really is my job. So I work on my projects. I may only work on a few, or I may only get a little bit done, and that kind of keeps me going so that now this week I'm full of mojo. I've got a lot of creativity. I've got a lot of ideas in my head. I want to tackle all kinds of projects. Now I have to rein myself in and make sure I don't overdo it. Because with all these projects I have going on, I do not need to be starting too many new ones. I won't say I won't start any because I like projects. So I worked on the Pioneer mitts, the ribbed mitts. I'm right here on both of them, of course, because I'm doing both at the same time. So I've gone ahead and got about a ½ an inch or so on them. I'm supposed to be knitting on these until they hit 4 inches. And I'm about at 2 3/4, so I still got quite a bit to go. Another inch and a quarter, inch and a half, give or take. Depends on if I want to roll this down and measure it right from the beginning, or if I want to let it go like this. Normally, I would probably measure it from here, because when you wear this part's going to stay rolled up. It's a little feature they have on these gloves. Now remember, like I said, I'm doing 2 at a time, so once I finish these mitts, I'm going to be done knitting both of them. So it does take a little bit longer to work on them. And it kind of looks like it takes a little bit longer. If I was only knitting on one, I would have gotten twice as far as this, because I would have had these stitches would have been on here, and this mitt would have been almost done. But since I want to make sure that they're both the same length, I've done each step the same amount of stitches and the same amount of times. So, you don't have one mitt here and one mitt there, and your thumb started here and then your thumb started there. It's just so much easier to take that little bit extra time and work on them both at the same time. I actually enjoyed working on these, even though they're a knit 3 purl 1, a knit 3 purl 2, excuse me. It's a free pattern on Ravelry down below. But yeah, it's actually enjoyable, even though, like I said, it's a lot of rib work. The whole glove is a rib, but I enjoy it. Another project that I've gotten a little bit on, but it's when you're working on a project that's so large like this is almost like working on a sweater or an Afghan. It's got close to 400 stitches on the needle. Let's keep them on the needle. And I was right here last time, and now I'm all the way up there, so I think that's pretty good. I put 7 rows on, so I think it's really good. Like I said, for as amount of times I have to go, it takes me at least 10 minutes to go around all the stitches once. A little bit longer if I'm actually socializing or watching videos or something. Now, if you remember, this is going to be the right side, even though normally when you're knitting, this is considered the wrong side, with all the little purl bumps. And this would be considered the stockinette or the right side. It can be worn either way. Decisions can be made. Things can be tucked around. Like I said before, the only difference is, can you see that this is where you have to carry up your yarn? So you kind of get these little stitches of the thread that's coming up through here. So you don't have the yarn. You could still see it either way, in my opinion. So once you put this around your neck and you wrap it around twice and you juice it around a little bit, nobody's going to ever see whether it's supposed to be this way or that way. So it's definitely reversible. Okay, one more knitting project and then we can start talking about sewing. I want to thank everyone who hangs out and listens to my crochet and knitting projects and just listens to see what I've got going on. But when you're really actually more into the fabric ones where I'm sewing or quilting, I just appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I had some appointments this week for myself, so I did get quite a bit of time to work on my socks while sitting in doctor's waiting room. I'm to the point where I'm almost ready to put the heel in. I just need to go ahead and I'm going to probably try it on. I do have a cardboard cutout of my foot that I can slide it on. You want to take it to where, if this is your foot and then this is your ankle, you're going to go to 2.5 inches from your heel in. So right about where it starts to have that bend, that's where you're going to start working on your heel. So I'm probably like right up there, just a row or two away. This is where I was last time you saw them. And then this sock didn't need as much work so far. They are close to matching up. They're not perfect. You can see that they're all off by just a little bit, but I don't care. I'm going to enjoy wearing them. And when you have them just looking like that, no one's going to see them. And how many times do you actually put your foot right next to each other to make sure they're even? If anyone says, hey, Robin, your socks aren't even, I'll just like slide one foot forward a little bit and they won't even know, right? So those are my socks, just a basic vanilla socks. As you can see, I am not knitting these on the same needle. I'm knitting these concurrently because it just takes too long to get around for socks when you're doing that. This way I can work on this sock for a while, and if I have to set it down, I'm only setting it down on a little bit of stitches instead of both of these together and then trying to figure out where I was when I come back. Okay, there we go. That is it on the yarn stuff. Let's check out the sewing. I worked on some 9 patches. Instead of doing the 9 patch a day, I decided that it's just much easier to sit down, take an hour one day, and go ahead and make a bunch of them. This time I decided to I made 5 of them this way. This fabric it's hard to tell, but it almost looks like a rotary cutter. These are airplanes in the clouds, and then you got little ladybugs on yellow. And then I went and made 5 in the opposite way. That way, if I wanted to put these together in one section of a quilt or make a small wall hanging, I have the fact that they're opposites, so that I can just go right along and it'll give it that nice checkerboard look. So these were fun. The ladybugs are really cute. They're definitely bright, bright yellow. And that little white spots I just noticed are actually, they look like hearts, but it's kind of hard the way the light's hitting them to tell. But there is 10 9 patches for my week. If you check out my Instagram picture for this, it'll tell you, but I think I might have made 28 9 patches out of 365. which kind of sounds like not very much, but I'm getting there. They all add up after a while. If I did 10 a week and I need 365, you figure that's only 36, 37 weeks, and I'll have them all. It won't even take me the full 52 weeks of the year. I did work a little bit on my hand-stitched quilt along. I've got my sashing done on the up and down on the vertical. And I have it all cut for the horizontal. I have to go through, I wanted to make sure I got this all nice and pressed to make sure the rows are looking nice and straight and good. And then I'm just going to go through and I'm going to be stitching all of these together because it's not quite enough. This is the end of my white fabric. This is all I have. I may have a little bit, but I'm not even sure if I have enough to make an outer border of this. I might have to get a little creative. But I'm going to stitch these together. And then after I get them all pinned on, then I can go ahead and trim. So if each one's stitched together, as I trim them, then I can just lay it down to the next one and then just keep going that way. We'll see, or I'll just go ahead and stitch a couple together like that and then do each row. I'll figure it out as I'm going because that's about my style of quilting. Figure it out as you go. But I had a lot of fun working on this. For anyone who might want to see the backs, my stitches are far from perfect, and I love them. This has been a really enjoyable project to work on. I've had fun learning the process of hand stitching and seeing how everything fits together and how it differs from sewing with the sewing machine. But this is not a process for me. I do like the speed of the sewing machine. I don't mind doing, where was it? Doing a little checkerboard and stuff, that wasn't too bad. Doing hourglasses, and that's not too bad. And half square triangles aren't too bad. But once you start getting into the more detailed and complicated blocks, it does take quite a bit of time. And you have all these different sections that you have to get through. And we have sewing machines for a reason. I think anyone that hand pieces all their quilts and does king size quilts is a totally amazing person. And I wouldn't mind having one project going at a time every now and then. But I don't think I would want to hand piece all of my projects, all my quilts. So the only thing else that took up all of my time is I finally got around to doing some of the baby shirts that I've been wanting to do. I got myself all signed up to do the Preemie Shirts, but I just never had the chance to sit down and get everyone prepped. So I have 20 or 25 shirts here. As you see in the back of them, you're not going to be able to see. Here we go, some teddy bear fabric with some cowboy flannel. I just pulled some of the kids' fabric that I had off of the piles and just went with what would fit. Something semi-gender neutral that wasn't going to... I didn't want anything that was too much that was going to be screaming girl or boy. I wanted to try to stay gender neutral, but of course some of them will probably be for girls and some will be for boys because that's just how it works. But these cute little sailboats, I'm using some of the gray flannel that I purchased and some of the flannel I had donated to me along with the fabric. So that worked out really well. Thank you very much. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen that I went through and I think 18 of these, I wasn't paying attention. And I put the right side of the cotton fabric and I put the wrong side of the flannel. So instead of having right sides touching, I pinned them all this way. Oh, I was so happy that I actually caught it before I stitched all along these shirts. Do you imagine I would have cried if I'd have stitched all these and I would have had to take them all apart. I know I would have ended up just cutting everything up for scraps and starting all over because to get all those little stitches out of the flannel, it's not going to be fun. And then I would be worrying about the integrity of it when I did it again. You'd have those, I know the holes will fill in when you wash it and stuff, but everything will be flopped in a different direction, and I wouldn't want anything to fall apart on the parents, you know? So here is the airplane fabric that you saw that I was doing the 9 patches on. Nice, fun, bright fabric. And I have this baby flannel that was given to me. Did I match the inside flannel with the outside cotton? No. Did I have to come in and steal some squares to finish off my 9 patches? Yes. This is a fun fabric too. It's very cute, and I thought it was great for the babies. It has these little footprints in the sand, like at the beach or something.
More sailboats, purple polka dots. Peacocks.
So this one's definitely, well, it doesn't have to be for a girl, but you know most parents are going to choose this one for a girl.
Little bunnies.
So they don't mind if you send in 100 of all teddy bear fabric on gray flannel like that. It's perfectly fine. You don't have to only send in one of each size of each fabric or anything like that. Because remember, these are going to go to the babies that are in the NICU, from the little tiny ones all the way up to the little, little bit larger babies. Several of you told me that you had 10-pound babies that were into the NICU because of their medical issues and stuff like that. So that there are many times it's not just the preemie babies that are in there. So now then, this week when I have a chance, I can just sit here and stitch around them. I just need to make sure I leave a spot open so I can flip them. They teach you in the videos that to leave the spot down here open, and then they want you to skip a spot over here also to put the tag in. But I think what I'm going to do, since this is a straight line here anyways, is that I'll probably leave this section open so that I can put the tag in and close it all up at the same time. I think that'll be much easier than trying to remember to leave 2 spots open. And as you've seen, I picked shirts from all the way down to the tiniest little size shirts that they had. And I went up to, there were still 2 or 3 shirts larger because I still haven't purchased. I have to go to the store and pick up the poster boards so I can trace those out. Until then, these are going to be plenty for them. They have a good variety of sizes, and most of the other sewers, they do the sew-ins where they go to the coordinator's house and they do the holiday fabrics. They all get together and they sew, but they're like 3 hours away from me, and it's not always, ow, stabbed myself with a pin. It's not always easy, well, it's never easy for me to go 3 hours away to sit all day and sew with a bunch of people. Plus, I don't always, my body doesn't always like me to sit and sew for that long a time. And my mind likes me to switch up projects. Plus, with the way I like to talk, do you really think I'm going to get anything accomplished with a room full of women that love to talk about crafting and stuff like that? Now, when my friend sent me some of the flannel and stuff, she also included some of these vinyl stickers. Let me just show you where this is. This is from Villainous Vinyl, and you can find them on Etsy. They're little sewing decals. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with them. I'll figure out something. But keep calm and sew on with the sewing machine. I thought these were really nice. Sewing mends the soul. We all know that's true. But then there's just some fun things. Quiltaholic, yes, yes. And yes, we really do need all of that fabric. So thank you very much for those. I will find some creative way to use these. And with those also came some postcards. This one is from New Mexico with the pottery. This one is also from New Mexico. I'm going to guess that maybe that's their flag. We did flags of the states a couple times in school, but that was so long ago that I don't really remember. I know I did enjoy looking at all the different flags and having to draw them and color them and stuff like that. But like I said, that was back in like elementary or middle school. I also received this postcard. This one is the National Trust for Scotland. This is Culloden near Inverness. There was a famous battle for Scotland in this area. This is really nice because this feels like, it looks like it's a picture and not just like a regular postcard, but you know it's a postcard because you can see that. So I thought this was really good. I really would love to go to Scotland and see all the different landmarks and the ruins, the castles and just the regular houses and stuff. I've always thought Scotland looked really beautiful from what I've seen on TV and stuff. But with this postcard, I received a very sweet card. And in that card, she added some stickers for me, some sewing related stickers. Look at the little tape measure. I thought that was sweet. And she let me have the rest of the stickers. Now I'm going to have to figure out something fun for these too. I actually had... But it's even got a little pack of needles and everything. So I thought this was really cute. Someone was smart to make sewing related stickers like that for us. And this is a card... I'm not sure, it was purchased somewhere, so this is made on handmade paper like I've shown you that I've made once before, but they did a much better job because they actually got theirs nice and thin, which means they didn't put too much pulp in. She added some stickers on there, and this is more like a watercolor print or something. I thought that was very sweet. I really like cards like this. Handmade paper is just so fun. So that's it for me this week. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe and share with your friends so they can come over and hang out with us too on WIP It Wednesdays. And as always, don't forget to let me know down in the comments what you're working on this week. As you can see, my creativity and my mojo is in full force. I've also got so many things running through my head that I can't keep my brain calm when it comes down to crafting. But I have to slow down, Robin, because you can only do so much in a day. And if you speed through things, you got to take it easy so you don't mess anything up. Because I was very happy that, as far as I could tell, I got my 9 patches are all correct. They're all the right size and in the right directions. I hope everyone has a wonderful and creative week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!